This meeting is being held in conformance with the Open Public Meetings Act. Adequate notice of this meeting has been posted on the township website and sent to the newspaper of record. The agenda has also been posted on the township website and bulletin board at the municipal building at least 48 hours prior to the meeting. The agenda items will not necessarily be heard in the order listed, and the meeting will not continue substantially past 10:30 p.m.
Mr. Johnson,
Here.
Mr. Hall,
Here.
Ms. Roundtree, Ms. Vogt. Here. Mr. Popolo. Ms. Kingsley. Here. Mr. Maderos.
Here.
Mr. Kraut.
Here.
Mr. Monaco. Mr. Sternheim. Mr. Leo. Mr. Robertson.
Here.
Mr. Sofero.
Here.
Mr. Trost.
Here. Thank you. All right, do I have a motion to adopt the minutes of the May 21st, 2025 meeting? So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay, application for review, application number N-1-25 Conti Realty LLC, 41 Old Brook Lane, New Providence.
Mr. Chairman, this is an application for minor subdivision approval. The reality is there's nothing happening within the township of Berkeley Heights. It's really probably no jurisdiction for the board, but it's a tax map issues that I think the applicant and myself feel might be helpful if there's actually a memorialized resolution. There's a total of 3 lots, existing lots that are there's a lot line adjustment and it will create 2 lots. One of the lots is split by municipal boundary line between Berkeley Heights and New Providence. The reconfiguration, if you look on the maps that you have, the principal lot is lot 6 that has a house and other improvements on it. And that is being extended to the rear across portions of what are lots 11 and 12 in New Providence. And the existing lot 7 will ultimately become part of the remainder of lot 11, which fronts on that has the street frontage on Old Brook Lane. So that's really all that's happening. There are no improvements, there's no planned construction. As far as lot 7 is concerned, I believe Mr. Sofero's here. I believe it's largely impacted by wetlands, so there's no planned improvements on that. So it really is a matter of just reconfiguring lot lines to create 2 larger lots from the 3, with no lot line being changed at all in the township of Berkeley Heights. So the matter was presented, reviewed by the Technical Review Committee. Technical Review Committee recommended that it does fit the definition of a minor subdivision, and therefore the board could waive public hearing and notice requirements. And if there are any questions, Tom's here. I know that the applicant's attorney is here as well. If there are any questions from the applicant, but it's simply seeking the lot, reconfiguration of those lot lines on that property.
So the question, why is this before us? Because as I understand it, the Berkeley Heights lot won't be touched in any way.
There was discussion about that. It would require, I don't have the authority to do it, but it would require a letter of jurisdiction from the township. And there was some discussion about that and timing. And because the actual dimensions of the lot that includes the Berkeley Heights lot, if you look at it's a different shape. Overall, the piece in Berkeley Heights isn't changing, but the lot itself is reconfigured. And after some consideration, I just thought it would be helpful to the tax assessor to have a record and a file subdivision map creating the new lots and a resolution of subdivision approval So there was a clear record of what took place, why that shape of the lot changed, and it would run through the tax assessor's office, they would see it, and so that's the answer.
It's lot 7 in Berkeley Heights it's a small part of a much larger lot that's mostly in Providence.
But originally, it's part of a lot that ran from the street all the way back. And now it will be running across the front of the frontage. The rear of it's cutting off. It's no longer the same shaped lot, a different shaped lot.
I have a question that I should probably know the answer to, but I'll ask you anyway. If there's a lot that is predominantly in one town, but there's a piece of it in town number 2, how is that treated from a tax perspective?
It depends. They can either have an agreement between themselves to apportion the tax, based on a percentage basis. Or there can be a jurisdictional agreement between the two towns that's typically handled through the, township council or governing body. But they typically would have a jurisdictional agreement between the two towns, and then the tax assessors would be notified.
Well, that lot is reconfigured. Would that impact potentially that tax? Not that I'm trying to raise this as a tax issue, but just sort of somewhat academically, does that impact a potential agreement between the two townships?
It's one of the reasons that ultimately I thought it made sense to come before this board, because we did pass this along to tax assessor. He raised that exact issue as to, we'll have to make a determination as to who would be the appropriate tenancy authority and how we're going to do it.
So should we opine on this thing, even if it's in form only, in advance of any type of opinion from the tax assessor?
I think that's beyond our jurisdiction. I think that's a governing body matter in terms of from my view of it, the improvement in the structure on that new lot is all in New Providence.
Okay,
Driveways, everything other than a kind of a vacant area that's encumbered by wetlands. All of the improvements are located in the province. Logically, that would be the taxing authority, but again, that's not, I think, for this board. It's beyond our,
we effectively vote on the merits as presented with that consideration as for other.
that's what I would recommend.
Anybody else have any questions?
No, I don't know if
I'm happy to answer any questions that
Yes.
has either, or say anything else on the matter. Ronald Herman on behalf of the applicant.
so Mr. Herman, I think he's the applicant's attorney.
Yep, that's right. Mr. Robertson summed it up wonderfully, so.
So anything you wanted to add to anything that we discussed here?
Well, I think there's currently 3 lots that are all in New Providence. The property owners are planning on selling to their current tenant. In order to do so, they're taking the 3 lots and making them into 2. And then lot 7, that's part of Berkeley Heights, is on one of the lots that's being sort of transformed into a different lot. So the actual lot 7 in Berkeley Heights is not being affected at all. It's just being sort of turned into a new lot in New Providence.
Very good. Thank you.
So we were looking at pass resolution.
Yes, and there would be a vote on waiving the public notice and public hearing because it qualifies as a minor subdivision, and then a motion to approve the minor subdivision subject to conditions that are listed in a resolution that was circulated earlier. It's really the compliance with the ordinance and review by the township professionals.
All right. So we'll do a vote. Motion.
How about a motion?
Motion to approve?
Yes.
Second.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yeah.
Ms. Pogue?
Yes.
Ms. Kingsley?
Yes.
Mr. Maderos?
Yes.
Mr. Kraft?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you very much.
You want to do the resolution as well, Mr. Quinn?
Yes, actually, there is a
All right.
Another vote or roll it in?
it wasn't rolled in, so I think there should be another vote technically, but sorry about that. Yes,
Need a motion.
All right, motion to pass the resolution?
I move to pass the resolution.
Second. Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Hall,
Yes.
Ms. Cole,
Yes.
Ms. Kingsley.
Yes.
Mr. Maderos.
Yes.
Mr. Crown.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
The application number SP three 25 Fire Service Solutions LLC 100 Honor Drive, lot 4301, lot 1.05 in the MU zone.
Good evening. Stephen Tripp from the firm of Wilentz, Goldman and Spitzer on behalf of the applicant Fiserv Solutions LLC. So this is an application for Fiserv, which is a tenant at 100 Connell in the Connell campus known as the Park. It's an existing office building with over 400,000 square feet. And there are currently 1,458 spaces that are there, and that has not been enough to meet the needs of Fiserv staff in the building. And as a result, we're before the board tonight, and there'll be, I have witnesses from, a witness from Fiserv and our team to explain that the proposal is a 6-level parking garage, adding 1,535 spaces. It's going to be in the area of surface parking, and so there'll be a loss of some spaces, but at the end of the day, there would be a total of 2,689 spaces, which is designed to meet the needs of the current staffing of the building. And we comply with all the zone requirements. We're not seeking any variances. We're looking for one design waiver, which our engineer will address. It has to do with the ADA spaces. Your ordinance requires wider spaces than the federal rules, and the federal rules, all the spaces in the park currently comply with the federal regulations. So we're looking to be consistent with that. And there were a few other design waivers noted in the reports, which we'll address. We don't think we need relief, but we'll address it in testimony. But basically, it's a fully conforming site plan application, really designed to address the specific needs of the tenant. I'd like to call the first witness is Michael Murphy, who's from Fiserv, just to explain situation and to review what the purpose of this is and how they intend to proceed.
Representative York, this need to be sworn in.
Yes.
Absolutely, he's a witness. Do we have another microphone or? Is that?
Can you raise your right hand? Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Murphy, can you just advise the board briefly of your position with Fiserv and your familiarity with this particular site?
Sure, yes, so, yeah, Michael Murphy, work for Fiserv, I'm in their global real estate group. I'm a vice president, had that position for the last 7 years. I was involved with the design and the construction of the current facility. I'd say I'm there maybe once a week regularly, as we have, roughly on average 2,600 employees coming in and out of the door, so.
And Fiserv is the sole tenant of 100 Connell Drive, correct? Now, can you just review for the board the existing parking conditions?
Sure. So today, as mentioned, we have, roughly 1,400 50 parking spots, surface lots around the facility. Because we have so many associates coming in and out, we've actually worked with the Connell Group to get an additional 190 temporary spaces across the street at L'Oreal's facility. And most recently, we have a lease over at the Nokia building where we've leased another additional 500 spots. And then we've been parking throughout the Connell campus. Since we took occupancy, we do have shuttles running throughout the campus over to Nokia, and over to L'Oreal space to, safely transport our associates from those, spots to our building.
And you've been using the Nokia space since the end of January, is that correct? And can you explain what you're proposing?
As mentioned, we're looking at building a, new parking garage to accommodate both associates, visitors and guests. Working with Desmond and Langen here, we think we've come up with a pretty good solution in terms of solving for our current population, but also giving us enough capacity to accommodate if we do have guests. Sometimes we do hold board meetings from our facility. We do different types of events there. So the 2,680 kind of meets the needs from what we've seen, at least on a daily basis.
And so the intent would be to meet all of your needs with your surface parking in the garage without having to use remote parking that you're currently using, correct?
Correct.
And to minimize your usage of spaces elsewhere on the Connell campus as well, so that everything would be focused in and around your building.
Yes.
And during the construction of the garage, how do you anticipate, once the 300 or so spaces are removed to make way for the garage, how are you going to be handling it?
So we'll continue to run the shuttle system to L'Oreal as well as Nokia. We are in conversations with Nokia to get additional spaces. There is ample parking over there to, obviously to kind of help us with the surge, if you will, during the construction process. So.
And what is your anticipated timeline?
Right now, we're estimating at minimum probably about 18 months, start to finish, once we've approved everything from a construction perspective.
Thank you. I don't have anything further with this witness.
Anybody have any questions?
I do. I was just actually address the specific choice of that location, lot area, the parking spaces that are assigned to Fiserv. Why that particular location? What are the benefits?
I think our engineer could probably describe that better.
Sure.
I think, Mr. Murphy, you can explain a little bit about why that location was chosen, but I would again defer to the engineer in terms of the logistics.
Sure, we did look at a bunch of options. I know the folks will speak, more to it. There's a lot of development going on the Connell campus, So we worked with Connell just to make sure that wherever we were putting this garage didn't impact with any of their long-term plans. Obviously on, as it's depicted, it's going to be for our sole use. And where it's situated at the moment seems to meet the needs for us in terms of, what we anticipate in the future.
And it's in close proximity to your building, correct?
Yeah.
You said that the capacity of the garage meet the needs that exist today at Pfizer. I don't know if you're using 100% of the 400,000+ square feet. Like, is there additional capacity within the building that you're in that would necessitate, like, if that was used up, that would necessitate additional parking or?
No, we don't think so. We're 5 days a week, 9 hours a day. The data that we're using is based on our badge system. So every time an associate comes in and leaves, we have badge swipes. So we're not necessarily, shooting in the dark per se. So we're basing this on data, and we feel that this will fit exactly what we need. We're roughly, call it 85% in terms of the, population in the office, between, travel and whatnot. So, but we feel very confident in terms of the number of spots we're getting.
Does anybody from the public have any questions? Okay, we are good.
Our next witness is Shannon Felino, civil engineer.
I stood, you said.
You can stand.
Be easier to point.
I won't argue. I won't argue with that.
Usually it's the other way around, you know,
Yep.
chivalry isn't dead yet.
Please raise your right hand, please. Do you promise to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Name and credentials, please.
Sure. My name is Shannon Folino, Folino. I am a project engineer at Langen Engineering. I received my Bachelor's of Science of Civil Engineering from New York University. I have been with Langen for about 9 years and have worked on about 30 or so land development projects over my time there. I am a licensed professional engineer in New Jersey. I have had my license since 2022, and my license is current. I led the technical aspects of the civil design and the stormwater design under the supervision of Brian Weisner, who is the engineer who signed all of the documents that were submitted as part of the application. I have worked on other projects similar in size and scale in both New York and New Jersey, and I've testified before this board before.
And you also have worked,
Yeah, in 2022, actually.
What's that?
Thank you.
and you've also worked on other projects within the Connell campus, correct?
Yes, I've worked on other projects at the campus.
So you're familiar with the functioning of the campus as a whole.
I am.
Thank you. So why don't we start with, I think you have Exhibit A1.
Yeah, we'd like to mark this as A1. It's an exhibit that is entitled Existing Site Conditions. It was prepared by my office. It's dated June 4th, 2025. And the exhibit shows an aerial of the campus. And I'm just going to kind of walk you through the orientation of the campus, just for those who may not be familiar. So the saturated portion of the image, as you can see, kind of central to the page, that is what is known as the park. It is made up of several different lots. So on the north side of the campus is Interstate 78. The eastern limit of the campus, if you will, is Oak Way. And then on the west side is Plainfield Avenue, which is a county right of way. And then you have Connell Drive along the southern border of the campus, though the actual boundary of the properties is Greenbrook at the southern portion. The park is made up of 5 lots in total that equate to just under 122 acres of area. And the subject lot of this application is 100 Connell Drive, which is located on block 4301, lot 1.05, and is roughly 34.6 acres on the eastern side of the park, closer to Oak Way. The site is in the mixed use zone. The entire park is what encompasses the mixed use zone, and the project that we are proposing before you tonight is consistent with the use and bulk requirements of the MU zone. All setbacks, coverage, height, uses, et cetera, are in compliance with the township ordinances. The Pfizer parking garage project involves the redevelopment of roughly a 4.3 acre area to provide additional parking near the Pfizer office building for their operational needs, and there is no proposed building changes or changes in use.
So you heard a question earlier when Mr. Murphy was testifying as to how this location was selected. Could you just explain briefly why this location was chosen?
Sure, absolutely. So, as Michael had referred to, we did look at a couple of different areas to potentially locate this parking garage. We considered the front of the building, which would be a little less than ideal because it's really blocking the visibility of the office building, which is the primary use of this parcel. And then, considering the rear of the parking lot, that's one of the main employee entrances is the rear of the building. So the length of it really didn't get to the parking that was required because of the depth of that parking lot on the north side of the building. And then to the west of the building, it's not shown on this plan, but several years ago, I think just about 2 years ago now, there was a project for the campus that's called the North Grove and the West Sports Courts project that is going to be constructed, and that is in the area that's between 100 Connell Drive and 200 Connell Drive. So it's that landscape area, and that's really going to be recreational, pickleball courts and a restaurant. And so it felt most appropriate, and again, also the space limitations of the parking lot. You'll note as I move on my testimony that the portion of the parking lot in which the parking garage is located is actually the larger portion of the triangular lot that's out there, if you will. So dimensionally, that was the most appropriate location that we could fit the amount of parking that's required for Pfizer's operational needs.
Also an intent to minimize the traffic and moving around the complex since some of the off-ramp on 78 would.
Yeah, so I mean, I think Carl, who's our traffic engineer, who will testify later this evening, can speak more to that, but just to kind of give you an idea right now, the idea is that a lot of the traffic is coming in off of I-78 ramp that's right there. And so locating the parking garage there actually brings a lot of direct access for the tenant into the parking garage versus, having to bring them all the way down to Connell Drive and come in through that way. So that was certainly a consideration as well. I'd like to introduce another exhibit into the record. So we're going to mark this as A2, and this is entitled Overall Plan Rendering. It's also prepared by Langen, dated June 4th, 2025. Very similar to the exhibit that you just saw. The main difference is that we've now overlaid the proposed project with the parking garage in the 100 Connell site area. So the proposed parking garage, as we've talked about, is located on the eastern side of the 100 Connell building. There's no existing buildings that will be demolished or removed for the project, but there is some surface parking, drive aisles that are going to have to be removed, as well as the existing helipad. The overall site, as you may be familiar, does slope from the north at 78 down to the south at Connell Drive. And there's roughly about 35 feet of grade change. So this building is really going to be kind of bunkered, if you will, into that grade. The existing entrance and exit drives for the 100 Connell site will not be affected as part of this project. So there is one that's existing along Oak Way, and then there are 3 other two-way entrances into the main surface parking lot along Connell Drive that will remain. And there are 2 one-way driveway entrances that bring you to kind of the central main entrance for visitors for Pfizer. We're going to mark another exhibit, A3. So this exhibit is entitled Plan Rendering. This is a more zoomed in vision on what we're proposing here, and we'll give you a better sense of the full project. So as I mentioned, we have Carl Pankey here, who's our traffic engineer, who will get more into detail about the full circulation and access at the campus. But I do want to orient you all to, at a high level of how this is all envisioned to work together. So the existing site entrance from Oak Way, as I mentioned, will be maintained. That's an existing approximately 30-foot wide two-way driveway entrance into the 100 Connell Drive property from Oak Way. The existing drive aisles within the parking lot are 24 feet wide, and the proposed drive aisles within the parking garage are also going to be 24 feet wide. Both the existing and proposed driveways, both the existing and proposed drive aisles are two-way, so there's no one-way circulation within this area of 100 Connell Drive. And there are 3 other drive aisles along Connell Drive. One brings you into the surface parking lot that's at the southeastern corner of 100 Connell Drive, and then there are 2 other two-way driveways from Connell Drive that bring you to the western surface parking lot. The proposed parking garage is 6 levels, but again, because it's bunkered into the site, when you're on the south side of the garage, it'll view as though it's 6 levels, but from the north side, it's views as 5 levels because there is 1 level that's kind of built into that existing grade. The total number of proposed parking spaces within the parking garage is 1,535 parking spaces. There was a discrepancy in the civil plans that were prepared by my office that say there's 1,560 parking spaces proposed. But the number that's reported on the architectural plans prepared by Desmond is the accurate number of 1,535. The existing surface parking lot for 100 Connell Drive contains roughly 1,458 parking spaces. So those are all of the parking spaces across all the different lots on the western, eastern, and northern, and a small portion of the southern as well. So all around that building is 1,458 parking spaces.
We're gonna lose 304 as a result of this.
Yes, so there's 276 of them that are within the actual footprint of the garage, and then there's about 28 parking spaces elsewhere within the property that are going to be removed. So 304 parking spaces, results in a total net surface parking that will remain as 1,154 spaces. And then between that and the proposed parking garage, there's going to be 2,689 parking spaces that will remain for 100 Connell Drive, which meets Pfizer's operational needs.
And in terms of the ADA and EV spaces?
Yes, so there are going to be 48 ADA parking spaces that are proposed between the existing surface parking lot spaces to remain and the proposed parking garage, which does comply with the total minimum required amount per the 2010 ADA standards. The calculated required amount is 48 spaces, so we will meet that. In terms of the make-ready EV parking spaces, we are going to update the plans to add an additional 2 spaces to meet the minimum requirement of 62 make-ready EV parking spaces.
And the entrances into the garage, there's multiple entrances, correct?
Yes, so if you were to enter 100 Connell Drive from Oak Way, and you come in towards the parking garage, if you remain straight, you would enter onto the lowest level of the parking garage. However, if you were to make a right, you would start to go up the ramp to the upper levels. There's also another entrance into the parking garage that is located off of the drive aisle that's between existing building 100 and the parking garage at the southwestern corner. That also brings you into the lower level. And then there's a third entrance point into the parking garage that's at the northwestern corner of the parking garage, and that actually brings you up to the second level. So it's direct access into the second level of the garage.
And can you just briefly review what are some of the other site plan changes that are going to occur in conjunction with the garage?
Absolutely. So in addition to the parking modifications that are proposed, there is a small portion of the existing walking trail at the southeastern corner that's going to be realigned because of the parking garage. There's also an existing sidewalk on the northern side of the office building that is going to be widened to 10 feet wide because that's going to be the main point of access from the proposed parking garage to the northern building entrance for employees. The truck access route for the existing building is also proposed to be rerouted as part of this project. There are going to be minor modifications to curb radii proposed at one of the driveways along Connell Drive. So that's it's the 1, 2, 3, the 4th driveway in. It's really the main drive aisle on the western side of 100 Connell Drive. That's the route that the trucks are going to come in. So the curb is being widened at Connell Drive, and then there's curb widening at the northernmost drive aisle to allow for trucks to make that movement. This is an office building, so I just wanted to note that typically deliveries for this type of facility are smaller box trucks for food and office supply deliveries. So that's the truck that we had looked at when running the truck movements for the curb radii improvements. And all told, with the new garage and the parking improvements, the project results in a slight decrease in impervious area. And as we've identified on sheet CS 100 in our plan set, there are 5 vehicular wayfinding signs that are proposed as part of the project to help direct people to the Pfizer parking garage.
And in terms of the overall campus and in the MU zone, this project, as you, I think, stated earlier, will not create any variance conditions or any nonconformities, correct? It's been designed to fit within the zoning.
That's correct. There's no proposed changes to the existing bulk requirements, and so we will be in full compliance other than some of the design waivers that we're going to get to.
And speaking of design waivers, I think you had heard me mention earlier with regard to the handicap spaces, Can you just briefly address that?
Sure. So federal standards for ADA parking require 8-foot wide spaces by 12-foot wide spaces. Sorry, 8-foot by 8-foot wide spaces versus the 12-foot wide spaces that Berkeley Heights requires. So we would like to maintain the 8-foot width in accordance with ADA with the federal standards. It's consistent with the other ADA parking spaces that are located on the campus. And so we just wanted to formally request that waiver to do as such.
So the space is 8 feet wide, but then you have the striped access next to it, right?
Yeah, the federal standards are a 5-foot wide access aisle, or an 8-foot wide access aisle if it's for a van accessible parking space. And so that's what we'll be adhering to.
And just for the board's edification, that's a typical design waiver this board has granted many times over.
Isn't that ours standard is 4 feet? A bit different.
I can't tell you back when it was, what the decision was at that time, but everything that comes in complies with the ADA standard, so. That's something we should probably look at
We should
from the
look at
town's
it,
perspective,
yes.
since we're doing changes to the other parts of the ordinance, that should be looked into.
Absolutely, thank you.
And also, the construction is going to affect some solar canopies that are within the surface parking lot. Can you just address that briefly?
Yes, that's correct. So there are existing solar canopies within the surface parking lot that are going to be displaced as part of the project. Pfizer is currently exploring opportunities to potentially relocate those displaced to other areas of the campus. And there are no solar panels proposed on the roof of the parking garage. I also wanted to note that as part of the construction, there is, one solar canopy that will likely have to be temporarily, removed just because of the access for the construction, and then that will get reinstated as part of the proposed construction of the parking garage.
You don't want solar panels on the roof?
I'll say one of the things that we took into consideration was, the visibility of the parking garage, and the solar panel would add some height to it. There are other, design implications, with solar canopies and, additional considerations that have to come into play. So, it was certainly part of the conversation of if that would be desirable. But ultimately the visibility was a big component. And then another consideration was just that the majority of the EV make-ready spaces are on the roof of the parking garage. And when we had, met with the fire department, it was somewhat desirable to leave the roof of the parking garage open to the air because of that reason.
How much of the current parking is, has solar canopies over it?
How much of the current parking is solar canopies?
Just a lot, or is it basically all the lots have solar?
Yeah, so as you can see on this rendering here, there are solar canopies on the existing on the western parking lot for 100 Connell Drive, in the northern parking lot, and the eastern parking lot all the way up. If I refer back to, I'm going to bring back up Exhibit A1. So you can see that most of that parking lot has solar canopies within that parking lot. Yeah, there is, the northern couple rows in that existing parking lot where we're putting the garage, there aren't canopies there, but other than that little portion of southern lot there in the front.
There's really going to be limited opportunities to add solar elsewhere within the park.
To this specific lot, but again, Pfizer is, considering other areas within the park to potentially relocate them.
That would have to be something would have to be worked out with Fiserv, so with Connell. So that's something that's under discussion.
Is the garage taller or shorter than 100 Connell?
I believe it's roughly the same height as 100 Connell. Maybe it's slightly shorter, but
But plus or minus, it's roughly the same height.
yes, roughly.
6 stories. Are they, how tall are the other buildings? How many stories are the other buildings?
So the 100 Connell Drive building is also 6 stories, I believe.
What's the,
Oh. It's 4 stories, but they're taller stories. So like viewing it together, it's,
I would look at these buildings, they'd be roughly the same height. Yeah, I just, the aesthetic of it would look roughly the same.
now, the height in the zone, maximum height in the zone is what?
the MU zone, the maximum building height is 150, but I believe to your point, you're trying to understand the context of
Correct.
this building next to the existing building, yeah. The architect may be able to confirm for you, but I do think it's generally the same, if not a little bit lower, because the sixth level of the garage doesn't have a full height, upper ceiling, if you will.
So the range of the height, are you aware of the range of the height, or should we leave that to the architect?
I would leave that to the architect.
Okay.
He knows the details of the height sections, yes.
I do have a question about,
That top light is just open air, so it doesn't have visibility. It looks like five levels.
I guess you could say that. I mean, obviously, there's a small parapet that would technically be higher than if you had a 5-story building, but generally speaking, yes, because the sixth level doesn't have a roof. It does appear slightly lower than a conventional building that had 6 stories.
It's a comment, I think, from Neglia about a view of, I guess, an eastern view of the building from Twin Falls Road.
Yes.
Have you been able to do that? Or?
Yes, I do have an exhibit that I can present. I can do it now, or I can get to it.
so one question about
Sure.
this EV, I realize that, so I respect that 62 number that you're targeting is sort of a minimum requirement, right?
Yeah,
Do you-
4% of the total.
I know you're going to ask you a question that's impossible to answer the question.
It's okay.
If you were to fast forward 5 years from now, what's the possibility that the demand would be higher than 62? And how would one react to that?
You're right. I can't predict the future.
Okay.
But 62 EV make-ready parking spaces. So, what that means is that all of the infrastructure, the conduits are run to provide, the actual charging docking stations. The infrastructure itself and the technology is changing so often that a lot of the times what you see is you're not going to see full build out of these EV parking spaces right from day one. Granted, if Pfizer wanted to, they certainly could, but a lot of what we see is, owners that will, put some in, and then they have the capability to put the more in that have, the more, I guess, advanced technology, if you will. I can't say if there's going to be a higher need in the future, but 4% of the existing number of parking spaces. So if you look at the state's model ordinance, once you're above, I think it's 150 parking spaces, that's when you have to do a percentage of the total parking spaces. It's a healthy amount for the parking that's proposed.
Are those fast charge or trickle charge?
I do not know the answer to that, no.
I was just thinking, if it's fast charge, one person would hog the whole space in a day.
Right. Any other questions right now?
So you mentioned the fire department has dictated the location of the CD. So the fire department's looked at this and they're comfortable they can get a vehicle up to the top of the building to the highest level, given the height clearances, all that.
Yeah, so we reached out to Jim Hopkins, the fire chief, back in February or so of this year, and had, went down to the fire department and reviewed the plans with him just to get, introduce him to the projects, get any concerns or thoughts that he maybe has so that we could incorporate them into our design before submitting the application to the township. I have reached out to him to follow up to see if he had any additional feedback now that it's actually been formally submitted to the township, and I have not been able to hear back from him. But the, and the location of the EV, I'll say it was not dictated by him. We had always proposed it on the roof of the garage, but in talking it through with him, there was, I guess, some satisfaction with that location, because they thought if there ever was to be a fire, then there's not like a roof or a ceiling that would push smoke back into the space. It's just open air to allow for pretty good visibility of where the fire is located.
Just one question.
Sure.
The 30-inch storm sewer relocation, do we know who owns and maintains that storm sewer pipe?
Yeah, so the 30-inch pipe that is proposed to be relocated as part of the project is maintained by the property owner, similar to other storm pipes on the property.
Just for the record, make sure it's not to towns.
Yep.
As it's staying within the garage limits. Thank you.
So just a couple other things to address here. The proposed parking garage will have a walkway from the western side of the garage a little bit north of the central portion of that building face. And there will be a 10-foot wide sidewalk that brings you to the building entrance for employees. That is the ADA accessible access route, and it will conform to the latest ADA standards. The project does require the relocation of some existing utilities, as Tom had alluded to. There's, in addition to the relocation of the existing utilities, there's also proposed electric that will service the garage, and a fire water service connection is proposed for the garage's sprinkler system. The electric service for the garage will require a transformer, and we will update the plans to provide screening either via landscaping or fencing. And we will work with the township engineer to address any sort of concerns that he has for screening of the transformer. A little bit more of the drainage details. So the project is mimicking the existing drainage patterns. The stormwater runoff is conveyed down to the existing stormwater basin that's south of Connell Drive. And the project proposes a decrease in overall impervious area, and we have demonstrated that that the stormwater leaving the project site post-construction for the current and projected 2, 10, and 100-year storms events do not exceed at any point in time the pre-construction runoff hydrographs. And there are no modifications to the existing basin proposed. The groundwater recharge requirement, this site is located in a metropolitan planning area PA1 and is a redevelopment project, so it is exempt from groundwater recharge requirements. And for water quality, we have roughly 0.04 acre decrease in motor vehicle surface. So therefore, there are no water quality treatment measures that are required as part of this project. So we believe that the project is in conformance with the current state and township stormwater requirements. I'd also like to note that there are no existing title restrictions, covenants, easements that would limit or preclude the improvements that are proposed as part of this project.
And the applicant will be coordinating with Connell the construction activities that are occurring elsewhere, correct, as this project goes forward?
Yeah, that's correct. These projects are obviously independent of one another, but there will be ongoing coordination between Fiserv and Connell, who's the owner of the property at the campus.
And we're not proposing any improvements within any DEP regulated areas?
That's correct.
So no permits are required from DEP for this project?
That's correct, yep.
In terms of landscaping, can you just briefly review landscaping?
Absolutely. So the landscaping design is really an enhancement to all of the existing landscaping that is out at the site today. There are 22 deciduous trees, 44 evergreen trees, roughly 100 shrubs, and 1,000 ground covers that are proposed as part of this project on not only the north side of the garage along the sidewalk area, the eastern side of the garage, and then the southern side of the garage as well. And there's also additional landscaping that's proposed at the Oakway entrance to kind of enhance that entrance to the garage area.
Now, in the reports, there were some comments about some of the landscaping requirements. There was one 11.13B2 about planting diamonds when spaces are abut each other, face each other, and then also interior and perimeter parking areas. Do you think that these apply in this particular instance?
So we do not think they apply, but we would respectfully request that if there are any waivers that Mr. Trout sees are necessary for this project, that we would be looking to seek those. But again, this is a pretty significant enhancement to the landscaping, along the parking garage, and we believe that it meets the intent of the landscaping section of the ordinance.
And those provisions seem intended for a surface lot where you can actually provide plantings as opposed to the interior of a garage, correct?
Yes, that's our understanding.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I would concur with that. It really is for surface parking, not parking garage.
And there are a total of 9 existing trees that are proposed to be removed as part of this project. We provided tree replacement calculations on sheet LP 101 of the site plans that we had submitted as part of this application. And that's in accordance with the township's tree replacement ordinance. The project will comply with the tree replacement. There are 22 replacement trees required, and we will be providing 22 deciduous trees to meet that requirement at the sizes that they are required per the calculations of the township ordinance.
And there was a comment from the Environmental Commission about species, and you'll address that, you'll comply with that.
Yes, we will update the plans to ensure that the proposed species are native species and are in accordance with the township ordinance.
And just briefly, the lighting, just explain the lighting that's proposed.
Yes, so the lighting is in compliance with the township ordinance. The fixtures are proposed to be LED with decorative type fixtures complementing the existing site fixtures that are out there today. The proposed light poles on the top level of the parking garage are located interior to the footprint, and they are full cutoff fixtures. And it is anticipated that the site lighting of drive aisles and parking areas will be provided from dusk till dawn for pedestrian safety and security. And then I wanted to introduce another exhibit for the, yes, and I have a little bit that I want to say about
That's
that.
gonna be my next question.
So we'll mark this as exhibit A4. This is a plan that's entitled Section Elevation. It was prepared by my office and it's dated June 4th, 2025. And this goes to Mr. Madero's comment earlier tonight, where we had addressed a comment from the planning board engineer providing a section from Twin Falls Road through to the proposed parking garage. The section itself is taken in, if you look in the upper right corner of the plan, there's a key map and there's a large orange arrow that kind of shows the section where we took it. It's probably really hard for you all to see, but it's the northern row or the northern bay of the L'Oreal parking. That was the section that we thought was the section that would provide the most visibility, if you will, because of the different features of the site.
Do you mind if I take a walk?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just kind of walk everyone through. So on this bottom portion here, and unfortunately, it's such a large area that it was really challenging to get it to be one section across. But the bottom portion, this is an approximate example of an existing house on Twin Falls Road. And we have different reference points from there to the parking garage at the northernmost point, the tallest point of the garage. And the reality of the findings is that, between the grade change that exists and the dense vegetation that is buffering between L'Oreal and Twin Falls Road, it's, the visibility is very limited from those residences to the parking garage. So that's a house. Yep, that's a house on Twin Falls Road. And then this is the upper left of the exhibit shows the proposed parking garage and also shows roughly the existing building. So kind of going back, that gives a little idea of how the two heights are compared next to one another. Hence my confusion, because I remember that there were similar heights, but the office has a greater floor to floor height for the 4 stories.
The property does slope down towards that neighborhood, right? If I'm looking at that correctly, right?
Which property?
Elevation point of view, that slopes down towards Twin Falls Road, right?
No, it's parallel.
Yeah, the Twin Falls Road kind of follows like a similar, like if you were to drive up Oak Way and up Twin Falls from Valley Road, they're pretty comparable in grade differential.
Grade on that. But anyway, back to that.
Yeah, there is some grade change as well, horizontally, because I do think there's some differential in the grade, but generally speaking, they're pretty consistent.
Since the site is so steep, are you proposing anything special?
Nothing special. What I will say is, in our experience, we work with the contractors as, throughout construction of the project to ensure that, silt fence is proposed at the southernmost limit. We will sometimes request double silt fence to help provide like a second, mitigation factor. But generally speaking, I don't think that there's anything for this project that requires a special mitigation because really the main disturbances are for the footprint of the garage, and that's going to be kind of earthwork and then get right to business.
And you'll be submitting soil erosion sediment control permit for certification through the Conservation District.
That's correct. We have to submit to Somerset Union County Soil Conservation District. We also have to submit to Union County. We're going to be requesting a letter of no impact or no interest from Union County as well.
Just got one more question regarding the parking deck. Are there lights on the top level?
Yeah, so the top level of the parking garage does have proposed light poles. They're proposed to be 14 feet tall. And as I mentioned, they'll be located kind of in the internal footprint of the garage. So they're not along the outer walls. They're in the inner location and they are full cutoff fixtures.
They'll be on sensors as well, correct?
That is correct. They will be equipped with sensors.
You should only illuminate when there's somebody there, but there'll be dust, I'm sorry.
So they're gonna be automatic from dusk to dawn, but they'll also be on controls, you know, to monitor if there is an issue for whatever reason with the lighting. There's controls that can help with the control of the light fixtures.
Regardless of whether or not anybody was up there.
That's correct. And I think that's also in conformance or compliance with the township ordinance. There's a requirement that any parking spaces, drive aisles are adequately lit during dusk to dawn.
That's a hard thing to do, to add a sensor that would detect whether or not there was anybody on the top deck.
You're saying like have something that's like motion censored almost. So, you know, what we've seen a lot is motion sensor can actually be like a lot more disruptive than just having one consistent light level at all times, because that's something that becomes more detectable to passerbyers or, you know, people nearby that would see it, you know, versus just having one consistent light level at all times. If you have something that's motion censored, it almost kind of draws your attention to it because there's that change that's occurring. So we don't typically see that for this sort of use.
Just a quick question on lighting. We didn't talk about this at the TRC, or is there any alternate design for lighting, like maybe having just lights on a parapet wall? And I know you don't know the answer right at the second, but would that be enough lighting on the top level of the parking deck?
I don't know off the top of my head, but just in my experience, I would say that's probably really difficult to achieve. You're going to need a lot more lights because they're mounted at a lower height. So in order to get the throw of the foot candles, you're going to need to require a lot more of them. And I don't even know if they would adequately light the drive aisle at the centermost point of the drive aisle. So I would say it's likely not feasible.
It's just a curiosity.
Sure.
Is the garage accessed by like a key card, or is it just open to whoever drives in?
It's just open to whoever drives in.
That's the intent at this point, is to have it open to whoever drives in. But again, we're not, it's at the, in the location it's in, we're only anticipating employees and visitors to Fiserv to really come in. So it's not going to be a controlled access unless, I mean, obviously, if it became necessary to do that, that's something that could be considered. But at this point, it's not intended.
Yeah, the location of the garage, you know, it makes it desirable for really 100 Connell Drive tenants versus other members of or other tenants of the park. Members of the public kind of think, yeah.
But I'm just right across the way. So is, and then L'Oreal is just nearby, so I guess they could conceivably use it without permission, but.
Sure. My understanding is that they have sufficient parking, so I don't see that being a often occurrence, if you will. Carl Henke from my office will be presenting for the detailed, you know, traffic circulation and access for the
Now,
project.
we did get the reports, but what I'd like to do is put on the architect, put on the traffic engineer, because some of the comments will address the reports. And then at the end, we can deal with any unanswered questions in the reports or any follow-up. But rather than go through it piecemeal now on just any of the civil issues, I think we should get the architect on and get Mr. Penke on, and then we can wrap up with any remaining questions from the professionals based on the report.
Any other general questions for me at all?
Anybody from the public have any questions for the civil engineer. Okay, we're good.
Thank you.
All right, I'd like to call my next witness is Thomas Basile.
Can you raise your right hand, please? Yes. You promise to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Your name and your credentials, please?
Yes. Thomas Basile, architect with Desmond. Desmond is the designers of the parking structure. I'll be the architect of record. I've been with Desmond over 40 years, and I've been licensed in New Jersey as an architect for 31 years.
And you're familiar with this garage?
Yes.
The, architecture and the layout and design?
Yes.
And I just marked as A5, that's the rendering that was included in your architectural plans that were submitted to the board.
That's correct.
So can you just briefly review the garage in terms of its height and the overall layout?
Yes. As mentioned before, it's a 6-level, but it's a 5-story parking structure. Its height it varies because of this topography of the site. So at the Route 78 on the north side, we're only about 44 feet above grade. When you get to the lower level, it's about 68 feet above. So as you can see, there's varying grades around the garage. So we're well within 150-foot height. And then also, as you can kind of see in one of these renderings, the 5-story building is 4 stories with a roof, and with the garage is 5 stories, but the 4-to-4 height's probably less on the garage. So we think, as discussed, they'll be about the same height at the end of the day. Okay.
Now, in terms of the materials and the color palette, can you explain how that was designed to fit in with the existing buildings on site?
Yes. This will be a structural precast garage. And so the facade, which is shear walls, spandrels, columns, and elevator towers, will all be a buff textured concrete that'll be complement the existing building. It's not going to be a complete match, but it's a complement. The glass, we have glass in all our towers, all our stairs, elevators, and also the lobbies. That'll be similar to the glass on the Fiserv building as well.
Now, in terms of the interior of the garage, will it be sprinklered?
Yes, the garage it's an open parking structure, so there's no mechanical ventilation required, but it will be fully sprinkled as per the code.
And in terms of signage, is anything proposed other than wayfinding signs?
No, the garage is typical with a 2-way parking layout. It's typically just wayfinding signage, exiting, entrance, parking, directing people towards the elevators.
And I know there was a question in one of the reports regarding the clearance, height clearance.
Yeah, well, we need a 8'2" minimum for the ADA van accessible. That'll be on the lowest level. But with the garage being 11-foot floor to floor, we're approximately 8 foot minimum on each floor of the garage anyway. But the lower level where the ADA vans are, there's a minimum of 8'2". It's a lot more than that.
And in terms of the internal lighting within the garage?
Yeah, this will be LED lights, and to get to your question, they do use sensors in the garage at the lower levels. And what they do is they dim them down maybe 50%. So there's enough light for emergency, walking through, but when there's motion, the lights go back up. So that's the lights that we'll be using in there. Yeah.
And in terms of the design standards for parking spaces, we're talking about 90-degree spaces that are 9 by 18, correct?
Yes, very standard, 9 by 18.
And there's a provision that talks about an increase of 10-foot width if you have spaces adjacent to a wall or a fence. We don't have any spaces.
No, we have no conditions where we're against a wall or a fence in this garage. So all the spaces will be the 9 by 18.
And what about columns? How
Well,
are
the columns, the code is asking about if there's a column intruding on the sides of the cars. In this case, all the columns would be at the noses, so there'd be no column intrusion in the sides.
And you heard Ms. Felino's testimony regarding the ADA spaces?
Yeah, basically what we said is that we have an 8-foot with a 5-foot access aisle versus the 12.
In terms of aisle width, the aisle width complies with the ordinance?
Yep, 24-foot standard aisle, yes,
And as indicated, you've located the EV spaces on the top
on
level.
the roof, yes.
In terms of, there was a question about snow removal. That's only an issue on the roof, correct?
Right, only the roof gets the snow. In a garage of this many levels, the typical situation is they plow on the roof just to the perimeters and they just leave it there. And they lose some spaces for the duration till the snow melts, rather than try to get it off the roof and truck it away or whatever. So that's the standard way.
If the board has any questions?
Next question about the adequacy of the elevators, because I think we all got earlier, I guess 2 elevators is sufficient.
Yes, we have 2 elevators, glass back elevators in this case, so you'll be able to see them, see from inside and outside. Yeah, with the garage, it's typical with this many levels. The lower levels, a lot of times people will walk, but you don't get a big surge of people at one time. So 2 elevators should be sufficient.
How many staircases are there?
What's that?
How many staircases are there?
3 staircases, yep. And you can see this one here, this is the main one that's situated in the middle. Which leads right to the walkway that goes to the.
A quick question with regard to our DMR planners letter, number 12. Recommended properties that we place on the building for emergency services. Is that going to be done?
Well,
Yeah.
the signage, in terms of putting the, an address?
The address.
Oh, an address, yeah, we'll be able to do that.
We'll work with the,
Find out which is the best.
the
fit.
town
Put it
to
on, yeah.
have a number that addresses it. I guess we'd have to work with the police department, so there was a number that separately
Separately.
address the building if there was an emergency.
Right.
Yeah, we have no problem doing that, obviously.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Any questions from the public?
Or you want to sit or stand?
Sitting all day.
Can you raise your right hand? Please. Do you promise to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Your name and your credentials, please.
Yes, the record, my name is Carl with a K, Penke, P as in Peter, EHNKE, Associate Principal with Langen Engineering and Environmental Services. I am a registered professional engineer in the state of New Jersey. My license is good standing. Been practicing for some 40 years and I've appeared before this board before. I've also been involved with this project with various aspects of Connell Corporate Park since the late 90s. Thank you.
Now, Carl, you did a traffic assessment, correct?
I did,
For this project.
yes.
And can you tell us what you evaluated?
Certainly. So as you've heard this evening, Fire Service is in this building. They have roughly 2,600 employees on a given day. Those employees are currently coming to Connell Corporate Park. They are parking in the parking lot surrounding the building as well as in the L'Oreal lot in 200 Connell. If you've gone out there, you can see the walking activity, and then they're also being shuttled from over by 500 Connell. So today the traffic is there. It is coming and entering and exiting from the park. And then you have the shuttle service that's moving the employees around. As this project evolved, one of the things we wanted to ensure as we designed the project was that the access and circulation would continue to function when we took that traffic and brought it directly or all the way into 100 Connell Drive. So to do that, really what we did is we did prepare a traffic assessment. That traffic assessment involved going out and taking actual traffic counts during a weekday morning and evening peak hour. We did that back in January of this year, and in working with the tenant, we identified a peak day. It happened to be Thursday. This Thursdays that they consider their peaking characteristics. So we did pick up a day that they represented to be a fully occupied and functional building. So we did that, and we established the existing traffic patterns that are flowing in and out of 100.
Those counts were done before Fiserv started utilizing the Nokia spaces?
That's correct. We specifically did that before they started to use the 500 spaces at Nokia. So it really established the existing traffic flow pattern coming into the roughly 1,450 spaces coming in and out of the site. And then moving forward to test the driveways, we really had two ways to do it. As a traffic engineer, we really could have gotten technical and started to take the traffic that's coming here, but going to L'Oreal and going to 500 and divert it and get all complex in our analysis because that traffic is here. But we felt it was just easier and more conservative to do a more simplified analysis. And we did that by just taking the traffic counts, which incorporates the existing employees, and actually growing it again to reflect based upon data that's published by the Institute of Transportation Engineers in Trip Generation 11th edition, 2,600 employees coming to this site. So we increased the delta of the as counted traffic coming in and out of to the 100 Connell today by the increased traffic, which was about an additional 400 trips an hour in the morning coming into the campus. So it's a little bit conservative in the analysis, but we did that because we wanted to make sure that we didn't need to change any of the access and traffic control. We did analyze all the driveways. Oakway has the driveway opposite Lifetime Fitness. And then we basically have three primary driveways that feed into the parking lots along Connell. We have the north, or what I would call the east driveway. You have the ceremonial entrance where you do have visitor parking, but it doesn't connect into the parking lots. You have the south central driveway, which really feeds up the loop that loops around the entire building, and then the driveway that's opposite to connect the road out to Valley Road. So we counted and analyzed all of those locations, and we also picked up the intersection of Connell Drive and Oak Way, since it's immediate proximity to our driveway. So we analyzed that system. So by taking that projection of an increase of employees on this site, which really reflects grabbing these employees that are going into L'Oreal, 400, 500, going into 200, and coming directly into the site, we set up a conservative traffic projection. Basically, if you had an opportunity to read the traffic study, what we found is that all of the driveways will continue to function at good levels of service. We are not finding the need for geometric improvements aside from the truck turning that Shannon just talked about a little earlier. We don't need to change any of the traffic control, stop sign control on the driveways on Connell Drive. And the same thing on Oakway. The driveway on Oakway, opposite Lifetime Fitness, continues to operate at acceptable levels of service. The one thing we did find is on Connell Drive approaching Oakway, and the Neglia report does mention it, is the left turn in the morning hour, which is only about 20 vehicles an hour. It's a very low volume. It's really the traffic going up to Lifetime Fitness from that direction. That movement does experience some longer delays into a lower level of service. However, the queue on that is only 1 or 2 vehicles, and the stacking on this approach is quite substantial. So it does not create any delays for right turning vehicles to southbound Oak Way, nor does it influence any of the other movements and flow through the intersection. So all the other movements through that intersection continue to operate at good levels of service, even with the more conservative traffic projection. There was a question in Neglia's report about What if you did a four-way stop at that intersection? And we will provide that analysis to Neglia as a condition of approval. We did run it, and basically, there's two things I would offer with regard to the results of that analysis. One, from a geometric standpoint, if you're familiar with this intersection, all approaches have two lanes. They have a left turn lane and then a separated through right. That type of geometry really is not conducive to a four-way stop. Usually you want single lane approaches. But the other thing we found, which was interesting, is if you introduced a four-way stop, it actually created a problem on Oakway southbound. So creating a problem to solve what's, in my opinion, a non-existent problem. That small number of vehicles making a left in the morning is really not problematic. And again, I think we probably have over projected the traffic. We have included the traffic for the district in our analysis and so forth, so it is a relatively conservative analysis from that standpoint. With regard to the building itself and access, one of the benefits of this application is all of the access is being maintained. There is no new points of conflict being introduced. There's no change to the external road system that will disrupt the knowledge of drivers that are coming to the campus today. There is really no change to the internal circulation, which is well established to feed the various parking fields. The parking deck, as Shannon indicated, will have what I anticipate is the primary access from the back end internal to the campus. That driveway, if you've looked at the architectural plans and in the site layout plan, feeds into the second level. The site has a central circulatory ramp, so that movement of traffic will be conducive to attracting people to that driveway. The access off of Oakway feeds directly into a ramp that also comes up and only feeds directly to the first level, and then you have to circulate like the access from the internal to get to the ramp system. So that's the way the garage will function. Coming in from Oakway, there is really no points of conflict until about 150 feet into the site. The first part where you reach a parking space, or coming up the ramp, the first few parking spaces about 50 feet up the ramp are not parked. So traffic will be able to flow into the site unimpeded. And quite frankly, in terms of an office building, unlike a retail establishment, the movements are fairly efficient. You're coming into the site, you feed into the site, you pull into your space. You're really not having somebody backing out of spaces and blocking you as a site feeds and fills in the morning. Fiserv is a 9-hour operation. From the traffic counts, what we're seeing is employees are starting to arrive at this campus at about 6 in the morning. So you see 6 in the morning arrivals, 7 to 8 is really the heaviest peak. And then it continues on till about 9:30. And then for the rest of the day, it's really pretty quiet until about 3 o'clock when the counts start to show an egress from the site. And that egress continues to about 7 o'clock at night and a little bit beyond. So that's really the way that the site functions today. Basically, the site really will work well. The positioning of the garage, I think, makes a lot of sense from a traffic circulation standpoint. And the analysis, again, which I believe is over projecting traffic flow in this area, does show good operations. And again, it's not even like the borderline operations. We're seeing C and B levels of service at all these driveways. So there's room to spare if the science wasn't exact as to who's using what driveway, but it all proved out pretty well, which was all factored into the design of the site. I think that really summarizes it. I should just touch on the Neglia report. I did touch on the Neglia report with regard to Connell and Oakway. They did raise the question about some improvement on the sight lines coming out. I did look at that and talk to Shannon on that. The basically behind the fence line outside the right of way has become overgrown. There's a lot of low-story shrub and rubbish that have really grown through the fence and made a mess. So we will clean that up and that sight line up. It's within our property and we're able to do that. So we'll rub out the understory and maintain that as grass areas similar to the meadow grass area that's maintained to the south of the driveway.
Is there an estimate in the morning when people are going to work? What percentage of the people coming off 78 to get into the campus area as opposed to coming in off Valley Road?
Sure, we did look at that, you know, for the advantage of having an established site is it actually gives us exact distributions versus looking at journey to work data. So about 20% of the campus traffic comes off of this ramp, so it'll be about 20%. About 56% of the traffic flows up from Valley Road, and then the remaining 26% or so are coming in from Plainfield and flowing in. And some of that might even be Valley Road at the next signal over. So you have that opportunity. So it's about 20, and then the rest from the south and west.
Right, so in the afternoon when they're leaving, they would logically go down to Valley and then work their way back to 78, right? But
Yeah, you have about 34% of the traffic that's popping straight down Oak Way. About 40% of the traffic that's coming out a little bit further and coming out and using the other connection to Valley Road. So between the two of them, it's about 70% of the traffic going down to the Valley.
you don't anticipate any type of backup and everyone's sort of leaving through the same.
Correct, no, not at all. Not at all. And as quite frankly, that traffic's there today. You know, those patterns are established. It might be a little bit different because if you're over at 500, you're probably going out by the signal. And now you'll be going out at this location, which is why we did this particular analysis. But if you're coming from the west on Route 78, you are coming in on Oakway today, probably making the right on Connell and parking at 200 and 500, because that is quicker than coming on South Plainfield and stuff up there. So those patterns would really pretty much compress to this area is what will happen.
Well, I don't want to speak for negative, but I thought that they raised a concern about that being a dangerous intersection primarily for traffic coming off of 78 that might be traveling at a high speed and then encountering left-hand turn traffic going up Oak Way and turning into that entrance.
Yeah, it's really about the sight lines coming around the curve. They noted that there is a curve here that naturally slows traffic. They did note that DOT hasn't been maintaining the signage on this curve. There were evidence of and some remaining Chevron signs. We have no problem reaching out with the municipality to ask DOT to maintain that and reinstall those Chevron signs that should be there. More importantly, it's this sight line in here. It's been allowed to grow through the years. DOT has maintained up to the fence line, but they don't have the right to maintain beyond it. So what's really happened is the understory behind the fence line has grown through the fence, over the fence, and it's just needs to be cleaned up. So it really needs to be almost exactly what we have on the campus to the south. We just need to clean up and grub out all that low lying junk trees that have grown, and we would just trim up the evergreen trees to about 6 feet.
Is that who's responsible?
That would be us. That's on Connell's property. Yeah, so we've had that conversation, and it's not a big area. It's just cleaning up this area. It'll look nicer. It will look nicer. Yeah. Yeah, it's good for us. It's good for DOT, and it's good for the public that are driving through here. So we'll take care of that.
Slightly different question. I don't know if you can go back this far back, as I was talking to Tom. When I did some research on that exit off of 78 onto Oak Way, I guess that goes back to 1996.
1996. Yeah.
And before that, 93, they actually submitted an application for an on-ramp off of. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, I was actually involved. When I moved from Ray Keys Associates to Shorter Palmer with Ted Casero was working on the interchange modification, which was a big deal with the feds to get the off ramp. It all has to do with spacing of the interchange. It still has to do with spacing, and we were able to accomplish in 96 the off ramp, but we're not able to get the on ramp basically because of the way the spacing of the interchanges work out on the highway. Was my recollection.
Close to the next.
Close to the next one, yeah. Yeah, this was a big win. That was a big win.
Yeah, I thought it was. I sure was.
I think somebody mentioned there's 500 cars parking at Nokia now.
Yeah, so what's occurred in February in advance and getting ready for this and also working with their landlord, obviously, Nokia created an opportunity to move some of the parking that's occurring here. So they've leased a chunk of that spaces at Nokia, 500 spaces. So they initiated that in February to relieve the parking that's occurring over at the district by 200 and 400, because there's a lot going on over there. And then, of course, we needed that as we move into construction, subject to this board approving it. So it creates a great staging opportunity. And Nokia will likely be available through the construction because that's just starting its redevelopment process, obviously.
Your accounts were done prior to.
Prior to the move, yes, it was in January, so we were able to get it in before.
Just the entrance into the garage off of Oak Way. There's a 20-foot radius curvature to make the right-hand turn. Do you see that as being an issue? I mean, or you see cars slowing down and then backing up all the way on the southbound Oak Way?
No, not at all, because what you have is there's 90 feet really between Oakway itself and then the internal ramp. And then if you looked at the striping on the internal ramp, the first 50 feet of that ramp is not parked. So it's really pretty clear to turn in there before you hit your first point of conflict. Similarly, as you move into the site, the first parking space is another 50 feet beyond. So as I said, we have about 150 feet before any vehicle may experience a point of conflict. And again, as I said, that point of conflict isn't a backing vehicle. It's somebody that's turning into I guess somebody could back into your space, but it's a relatively quick maneuver and parking. And then, from a pedestrian standpoint, this is the far end of the deck. So once these spaces are full, you don't have any pedestrian activity in there.
Well, as to hear that you thought the quote main entrance would be the one in the northwest side of the deck, the one up.
Basically, your primary entrances where you see the most activity is, I guess, what you would call a north drive, and then the second and would be.
You thought, the entrance to the deck.
Oh, up in here.
Up there,
Yeah.
I guess that was.
Mostly because that feeds into the second level, and the way the deck operates is you have a central ramping system. So to get to the ramp, you're basically making a right in, right down, and then up, and then you're circulating up, which makes that attractive. And then it also becomes attractive because the access feeds from Connell Drive are clear and not parked. So it really gives you a great straight shot into the deck and then circulate through the deck.
My final question is, what about the traffic signal at Oak and Valley? Any concern with that with the additional traffic?
So we analyzed that when we did the district, and when we did the district, we sort of did a build out analysis of the campus. So that intersection is operating at B level of service. Yeah, so it's operating well. If you recall, it has basically a double, has a left and a left right, and operates real well. It was funny, I was out there tonight watching it, and all of a sudden saw some queues backing through the intersection, which had me a little disturbed. And then I found out that there was a car parked in the right lane down by the signal, which was screwing it up. And he was there for about 45 minutes. But even with that impediment, with that one lane approach, the queues really were just getting back to Connell. So it was operating pretty well with just the single lane. With the two lanes, the analysis had shown B levels of service. So I did recheck that when we did tonight. I rechecked our traffic reports on that.
But I believe as one of your other applications, you had proposed a signal at Plainfield's Connell.
Correct. As part of the district, the signal is approved by the county at Plainfield and Connell. And that should be moving forward, I think, to construction relatively shortly. I don't know if we. Correct. Yeah.
So we just do that this year.
We should say it this year.
This year, no, 26, it will be prior to opening the district.
Prior to opening the district.
Other questions? Anybody from the public have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good. State your name and address, please.
Joe Iadanza, 923 Mountain Avenue. When you said you did your report, you said it was internal?
It was extra. It was on all the driveways along Connell Drive and along Oakway.
Okay. Now, did your study include Plainfield, Glenside, Twin Falls, New Providence Road?
This study hasn't gone externally because that traffic is already there and coming to the site. So we're not adding new traffic external to the site. We're just reallocating where it's going to internal to Connell Corporate Park.
Are you expecting an additional group of people to be working?
No, not externally. No, the people are there today. They've been there.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I didn't hear too good, but you're talking about putting a light now on Plainfield?
At the end of Connell Drive, Plainfield will be signalized. Yes, there'll be a traffic light there.
So in other words, when they're not supposed to make the left, they'll be able to make a left now?
They will not be able, it's still restricted left.
So they're gonna have to go right, go underneath the overpass?
That, the patterns that exist today will remain, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
At this point, I think we addressed the comments in the reports that asked for testimony. If you reviewed the technical comments as well throughout.
Yeah, so I've reviewed the letters from both the township engineer and the township planner. And, you know, we believe that we can work with the professionals to address any of their comments to their satisfaction as, you know, a condition of approval should this board decide to, you know, take that action.
No objection here.
Yes.
The only clarification, in your testimony, you referred to complying with the ordinances for the size of the trees. The reason why I've recommended larger size is because of the size of the building, and the ordinances really don't take that into. You're removing mature trees, and I think it would be in the best interest to put larger trees to have it impact sooner.
Yeah, we have no issue with providing the larger size trees as identified in the report.
Thank you. And then for the board, I spoke with Mr. Robertson, our attorney here. Item number 13, which has to do with the non-residential development fees. They actually are exempt because of the overall project. So that should be removed.
Got there's a section of the municipal land use law that specifically exempts parking structures from the exaction of that non-residential affordable housing fee, so.
That's it, Mr. Chairman.
We're good. Anybody from the public have any comment they want to make on the application? Not hearing none. You want to do a closing?
I'll be very brief. I think what we're proposing is a parking deck that's aimed strategically to address the parking issues that we have on site currently. And it was designed to comply fully with the zoning. The only relief we're asking for is the ADA spaces, which we talked about. Other than that, we're complying. We're going to work with your professionals to address all the comments in their reports. And what we would like is a preliminary and final site plan approval for the project as proposed.
Anybody from the board want to make any comments?
Yeah. So is this garage only for Fiserv employees?
Yeah, the intention is that it will only serve for Fiserv employees, but as we, you know, mentioned earlier, there's not going to be any restriction, you know, badge or arm access into the garage, and no signage for it.
So should, because I'm just thinking of the park, which is gonna have like nighttime activities. And people, would this be a potential?
You're saying like in reference to like the district and like that? Yeah. So I mean, there is a.
Because my worry is there's just never enough parking around there, and what they're doing, is this an option where, not that far?
The office workers should be gone if it's nighttime.
Right, that's my point, for the park activities that are.
It's not restricted, so
That are coming.
go there.
So-
Right.
Well,
So I was part of the district project, so I can kind of speak a little bit to that. The project itself does propose some additional parking over in that vicinity. And then to your point, the office parking that kind of occurs in that area around buildings 300 and 400 the idea is that these are kind of different peaking hours, right? So, your people accessing your retail use and your restaurant uses, those typically occur, on the more off-peak of office hours. So the intention is not for this parking garage to be used by, visitors of the district on the other side of the campus.
There's nothing stopping anyone.
There's nothing precluding them from doing it, But honestly, that would be something that would probably be like an issue for Pfizer. And at that time, if there was a need for signage or other options, then we would address it at that time and, acquire any approvals that would be necessary as part of that.
I have one comment. I just want to congratulate the reduction of impervious.
I think it was a solid application and taking care of a parking issue. So, Mr. Robinson?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is an application for preliminary and final major site plan approval with the one waiver that was noted for the parking space dimensions from the, but it meets ADA requirements. Conditions that I noticed went through, notably, the applicant agreed to work with the board of professionals, Leah and BMR, to address all the comments and conditions to the satisfaction of the board professionals. The applicant, there will be condition acknowledgement that 30-inch pipe from 78 will be maintained by the applicant. There will be a screening of the transformer, and the applicant will work again with the board professionals with regard to the requirements of screening. The applicant will work with the environmental commission with regard to the tree species. The applicant will add the address to the building structure. The applicant will look in and provide the four-way stop analysis requested in the Neglia memo. The applicant will clean up and take care of the sightline issue along Oakway coming from Route 78, and will work with the DOT and the borough with regard to reinstallation of the Chevron signs along Oakway. And then the other standard conditions, they'll obtain all necessary required outside agency approvals. It's the only conditions I know.
And the tree size.
Tree size, yes, as noted in the DMR report, yeah.
Do we have a motion to approve the application?
Motion to approve. Second. Second, yeah.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Adros,
Yes.
Ms. Pogue,
Yes.
Ms. Kingsley,
Yes.
Mr. Crowe.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Adjourn. That's it.
All in favor?
Aye.
I tried to do requisition for that.
That's
No taking. That's right.
Yeah, I think.